Okay, this is Byrchall High School Revision Podcast. We're going to be looking today at the cardiovascular system. This is on paper 1, physical factors affecting performance. And again, obviously with this is a podcast, so it's not going to be pictures on this, although it's a YouTube video. It'll be audio only, so there'll be nothing to look at on the screen. It's just a listening one, another way, different way of revising. Remember, you've got your revision guides that we've given you. We've got the revision guides that we've sold for the My Revision Notes ones. There are other possible areas for revision, so you can go on GCSE Bite Size and some other websites you can look at as well. So starting with the cardiovascular system. Cardiovascular means, cardio means heart, and vascular means blood and blood vessels. So if the question asks you about the cardiovascular system, please do not talk about the lungs. We are talking about the heart, blood and blood vessels. Of course, I understand why people think there's a cross, because obviously blood does pick up oxygen to take around the rest of the body. But if it's to do with the lungs and breathing and air, then it will be the respiratory system. So let's ask you about both. If it asks about cardiovascular system, you are talking about the heart, blood and blood vessels. First thing is that the heart is a double circulatory system. It pumps blood to two different places. So there's what's called a systemic circuit, which is the one that takes the blood with oxygen in it, so oxygenated blood off around the body to the muscles and other places that need it. And obviously it brings back the deoxygenated blood when the muscles have used it. And that's obviously very important when you're exercising the systemic system, because you need to get the oxygen to the muscles to work aerobically. And there's also the other circulatory system, which is called the pulmonary circulatory circuit, and that takes deoxygenated blood to the lungs so it can get oxygen to then be delivered around the rest of the body. So double pump or double circulatory system. One takes oxygenated blood to the muscles to drop it off, and the other one, the pulmonary circuit, takes deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs and then back to the heart again to pick up oxygen, which will then eventually be delivered by the systemic circuit. Within that system, this cardiovascular system, we have three main blood vessels. We've got arteries, we've got veins, and we've got capillaries. These are the system, if you like, or the path that blood will take around the body in either arteries, capillaries, or veins to deliver the oxygen where it needs to go, or the blood where it needs to go. So the first one is arteries. Arteries carry oxygenated blood at a high pressure from the heart to the muscles and to the organs like the brain, etc. So arteries go away from the heart, away. They're under high pressure because it's trying to move it quickly to the muscles and to the organs to deliver the oxygen. So arteries take oxygenated blood away from the heart. There's only one exception to this, and that's the pulmonary artery, which carries deoxygenated blood. All other arteries carry oxygenated blood away from the heart. It has, in terms of the structure of it, it's a smooth muscle layer, so it doesn't have valves and it doesn't need them because it's at high pressure. And it vasodilates, which means it widens, and vasoconstricts, which narrows to control blood flow. So when you don't need it, it will narrow. When you need more oxygen in the blood to the muscles and to the organs, you'll vasodilate, which will widen the artery, and it will let more blood through. So that's arteries. Veins, and if you spell veins, VEINS, it's got the word in it. Veins carry blood, should I say, back to the heart, which is deoxygenated and at a lower pressure. So this is when the oxygen has been dropped off at the muscle or the organ, it then comes back to the heart in veins under low pressure, and it is now deoxygenated. Again, it's a smooth layer of muscle, but now it has valves in it. And the reason it has valves is because it's under lower pressure, because it's deoxygenated. It could backflow, and you don't want backflow. You want it to keep going in the same direction back to the heart. So veins carry deoxygenated blood back to the heart. Finally, we have capillaries, and capillaries are really important in gas exchange. So capillaries are the part of the blood that will actually take gases through from one section or from the lungs into the bloodstream and actually get it going around the body for you. So they are very, very thin because they allow oxygen or carbon dioxide to diffuse into the actual cell so it can be carried, and they are used for gaseous exchange. So your blood goes to the lungs to pick up oxygen, and the capillaries get that oxygen and put it into your bloodstream for you. When your bloodstream then takes the oxygenated blood to the muscles, capillaries again will help put it into the muscle and take the carbon dioxide, which is the waste, out of the muscle. And then again back to the heart. So capillaries are for gaseous exchange, and they're very, very thin. So remember, we've got 3 blood vessels: arteries, which carry oxygenated blood away from the heart. We've got veins that carry deoxygenated blood to the heart. And we've got capillaries, which are for gas exchange. Next thing you need to know is you need to know roughly the journey that blood takes around the heart. So where the blood starts and where it goes to. First thing to say here is when you look at a heart on a piece of paper, so if it was in front of you now, you're looking down at a piece of paper, that as you look at it, the right-hand side is actually the left-hand side. So if you imagine you held that piece of paper up and put it on your chest, so it was looking out, if you like, from your body, it would be the left-hand side. So as you look, the right is the left and the left is the right. And the left side pumps the oxygenated blood and the right side pumps the deoxygenated blood. So we'll take you through the structures that blood would pass through to get to the various parts of the cardiovascular system. So blood would start in the vena cava, and it would be deoxygenated at this point. The vena cava is a vein, and it would travel into the right atrium first, and then as the heart pumped, it would pass through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. Again, the heart would pump, the muscle wall would squeeze, and it would push the blood up through the semilunar valve into the pulmonary artery, which is the only artery to carry deoxygenated blood, and there it would take it to the lungs. When it picked up the oxygen, so the capillaries would help us do that, the blood would travel back through the pulmonary vein, which is the only vein to carry oxygenated blood. We're now on the other side of the heart, the left side. It would then travel down the pulmonary vein and into the left atrium. The heart would contract, it would push the blood through the bicuspid valve into the left ventricle, and then again as the heart contracted, it would push the blood from the left ventricle up through the second semilunar valve and out through the aorta, which would take oxygenated blood to the rest of the body to deliver the oxygen that you would need. Within that, remember, there is a dividing wall down the middle called the septum, which separates oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. You've got all this in your revision notes. You can look at a diagram as well, but I'll just run through it one more time. So we go vena cava, right atrium, tricuspid valve, right ventricle, then up through the semilunar valve, pulmonary artery, lungs, back through the pulmonary vein, into the left atrium, through the bicuspid valve, into the left ventricle, and then up through the semilunar valve, into the aorta, and off to the relevant parts of muscles and organs that require the oxygen. And you need to know that journey of blood as it goes around the heart and what these structures do. Remember that any valve is to stop backflow, so make sure blood stays in one place and goes in the right direction. You will also need to know a number of definitions here. So you'll need to know the definition of heart rate. So heart rate is the number of contractions that a heart does in 1 minute. So you would measure it in beats per minute. Remember that at resting heart rate, the lower the better, because it shows you're fitter. It's a very good way of seeing how fit somebody is to test their resting heart rate. You'll know that heart rate would rise when you do exercise because you need to deliver more oxygen in the blood to your working muscles, but resting heart rate, lower the better. So heart rate is beats per minute. You also need to know stroke volume. So stroke volume is the amount of blood ejected from the heart per beat. So stroke is a beat and volume is how much blood leaves the heart per beat. That's measured in millilitres. Third one you need to know is cardiac output, and there's 2 ways of expressing this. You could say that cardiac output is heart rate times stroke volume, or you can say that cardiac output is the amount of blood leaving the heart per minute. If you times heart rate by stroke volume, you will get cardiac output, but the definition is the amount of blood leaving the heart per minute. Final thing you'll need to know about the Cardiovascular system is about blood cells. So you've got a variety of blood cells that have a bit different jobs. Basically, you have your blood consists of red blood cells, which are probably vastly important because they contain hemoglobin, which carries oxygen. So red blood cells contain hemoglobin, which picks up oxygen, and then obviously you want oxygen to get round to your muscles and to your organs. So aerobic training can increase the amount of red blood cells you've got, which means you can deliver more oxygen, which is why if you're really, really physically fit, by doing aerobic training, you'll be able to go for longer without tiring because you can supply more oxygen to the muscles. So red blood cells contains hemoglobin that carries oxygen in the bloodstream. Also, you've got white cells, white blood cells, and their job is to fight infections. So you might pick up an infection or cold, whatever else, and the white blood cells will go and fight that infection for you. And the third thing is plasma, which contains nutrients that you need for energy production. So just to whiz over that again, red blood cells contain hemoglobin that carry oxygen in your blood, and you want as much of that as possible. White blood cells fight infection, and plasma contains nutrients that you need for energy production. Okay, so that is the end of cardiovascular system. So I think this is only 11-12 minutes. Obviously, we're trying to do short bursts or short, quick podcasts, so you can listen to one 10-15 minutes and move on to another one. There's lots of ways of revising, but again, you'll find on this YouTube channel there are a number of podcasts that will help me do it. So this is the cardiovascular system, and this is for paper 1.